Are we on the verge of an event worse than the dot-com crisis? Also worse than the real estate crisis of 2008? We're going to dive into that next. Hi, I'm Pastor Dave, and welcome to this episode of The Final Hour. I am so glad to be with you this week because we've got some things happening in the financial world that really people aren't diving into, but it could be very chaotic. It could cause a lot of chaos. So I want to take some time and dive into this and then say, okay, what does the church do about this? I'm Pastor Dave with Interpreting Times. If you enjoy these videos, I would love to have you go to our YouTube page, interpretingtimes.com, or our YouTube page. And of course, to help the ministry, just like and subscribe to our YouTube because that really does help get the word out there and help more people see these videos. Now, what I want to talk about is artificial intelligence, AI. It has transformed the world so much. The transformation has taken place. It's taken place in our jobs. It's taken place in our families. It's taken place in relationships. It's even affected morality. And believe it or not, the truth itself is being affected by AI. People don't know what's real, what's truthful, what's a lie, what's deception. People are confused by things because of this tool that we call AI. And people now have become so entrenched with AI being involved in our everyday lives that they really kind of expect it and unfortunately welcome it. Well, what do you mean by that, Pastor Dave? Well, look at the medical field. The medical field uses AI. Education system uses AI. Retail and manufacturing, they use AI. And things are only getting more chaotic and going deeper in that direction. Folks, now that we're here, we have to understand, we have to face reality that we're not going to go backwards. We've reached a point with AI that we're not going to go backwards. We're only going to move deeper into this. And that becomes concerning and disturbing at the same time. All right, when you look at this, one area that AI is very heavily involved in, which isn't being talked about a lot, is the financial sector. Now, I want to bring that up because there are some experts out there who are yelling some warning signs, and I'm not sure we're really paying much attention to it because I don't hear a whole lot about it in other aspects of life. People are coming to me and saying, are you concerned about an AI bubble? Are you concerned about a financial bubble? That's not coming in. I hear other things about AI, about deception and what's happening, but nothing about the financial sector. So let's take a few minutes and really look at this. Many AI companies, they're valued much more than what their profitability is. So they're saying they're worth this, but their profits aren't showing that. And when you look at what's happening in the AI, the experts who follow this, they're calling this, and there's a lot of AI circular deals going on. Let me put a graph up here to show you something like this. When I say it's a circular graph, here's what's happening. So you have company A that wants to invest in company B, and they will send billions of dollars over to company B. So as company B receives these dollars, they take the same dollar, the same amount, and they go back and they buy the products of company A. So company A is investing over here, so this company's stock goes up. And then as they take the money they have and they buy something from this company, their sales go up. So now both companies are proclaiming growth. But is it really growth? Is there any profitability there? It's the same dollar. That's the saying. These AI companies, these are huge companies. There's 7 of them. These AI companies, the dollars are just circulating from one company to another. And how many times can you spend the same dollar and call it profit? If you and I bring $1 home, well, we can only spend it one time. We can't spend the same dollar 10 times. That's called debt. And that's what's happening with all this. Again, let me put another graph up here showing you some AI companies. You can kind of see what's happening here. And financialists now, the experts are warning that as this continues to happen, as company A goes to company B and company B goes back here, and the stocks and the prices go up and everybody gets excited about that, well, it's going to form a bubble. And eventually, all the commitments these companies are making, all the money they're saying they're receiving, it's got to burst. They got to say at some point this has got to pop and come to an end. Again, this is not my opinion. These are the experts in the financial sector who are concerned about this. And here's what they're saying. Get this. They're saying if and when this happens, really it's saying when this happens, the damage, the chaos that this is going to cause will be 17 times greater than what we experienced back in the dot-com time. When the dot-com bubble burst, that really only affected the people in the tech field. So this is going to be 17 times worse than that. What about 2008? Many of us remember 2008 and how the mortgage crisis and how houses, we lost equity, we lost appreciation, the market fell apart, everything went crazy. There was big bank bailouts. Remember 2008? They're saying when this bubble breaks, it's going to be 4 times worse than what we experienced in 2008. And it took us more than a decade to recover from 2008. Again, let me show you a graph here because let me show you some names of the companies that there. When you look at OpenAI is the big one behind this. OpenAI is the one making huge commitments to multiple companies. And they're saying they won't be in profits for a while, but their stock keeps rising. People are looking at these companies, and again, their profits and stocks keep rising. So you and I are thinking that we would be, buying something that's safe and secure, and that it's a fallacy. That's not the real case. Again, here's some more graphs here. You got Oracle, and you got AMD, and you got NVIDIA, and you got OpenAI. Let me take a moment here and take a break and show you a video where I think they very clearly explain how this is all coming together. So let me show you this real quick video. Hang on.
The pace and scale of artificial intelligence deals lately has been staggering.
OpenAI and AMD announcing a 5-year AI data center deal.
OpenAI has signed a $300 billion deal with Oracle for cloud computing power.
NVIDIA saying it's going to invest $100 billion in OpenAI. It's sparking a global tech rally.
Meta is paying nearly $15 billion for a Scale AI stake.
We've created a brand new industry called AI infrastructure.
Many predict that the AI boom will dramatically change how people live and work. At the center of this technical revolution are a handful of companies, which are increasingly turning to each other to finance and build out the infrastructure needed for this innovation.
Hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars are being deployed into all of this. And the reality is it's too much money for any of these entities, whether it's the GPU makers or the AI companies itself or the data centers or anyone else, to do on their own. So they all have to find different ways to kind of come together to do it.
At the center of this web of AI deals are OpenAI, the maker of the widely popular AI chatbot ChatGPT, and NVIDIA, a maker of GPUs used to power AI. Just this year, OpenAI alone has made around $1 trillion worth of AI deals. Let's take a closer look at some of these. In September, OpenAI confirmed that it would pay Oracle $300 billion for computer infrastructure over the course of 5 years. This deal is part of a $500 billion data center build-out project called Stargate, to which Japan's SoftBank Group is also contributing. OpenAI has also inked a $22 billion deal with CoreWeave for use of its data centers, which are packed with NVIDIA GPUs. OpenAI has another cloud deal with Google for an undisclosed amount. The company is also partnering with Broadcom to develop and deploy racks of OpenAI-designed chips. That deal amount is undisclosed. Part of the reason OpenAI is able to go on the shopping spree is because of a $100 billion infusion from NVIDIA, though a large portion of this investment will likely be used for leasing NVIDIA's GPUs. Microsoft has also invested about $14 billion in OpenAI since 2019. Recently, OpenAI has also announced a deal with AMD, where OpenAI agreed to purchase AMD chips in return for a stake in the chipmaker.
They're going to get to take up to a 10% stake in the company over time. So that's a pretty substantial equity investment for OpenAI.
NVIDIA has made a similar amount of intertwining deals. In addition to being a stakeholder in CoreWeave, NVIDIA has agreed to pay CoreWeave up to $6.3 billion for any of CoreWeave's unsold cloud computing capacity through 2032. CoreWeave gets most of its GPUs that it then rents out to customers from NVIDIA. Meanwhile, Oracle has purchased about $40 billion worth of NVIDIA chips to build a data center for OpenAI, which is part of the Stargate project. SoftBank has a $3 billion stake in NVIDIA. Other large tech players are also in the mix. In June, Meta invested $14 billion into data labeling company Scale AI. Meta has also paid $10 billion to Google for use of Google's cloud servers and $14 billion to CoreWeave for their AI cloud infrastructure. These are just some of the interconnected investments that have dramatically lifted the valuations of many of the companies involved and sent U.S. stock indexes to new heights. But some experts are worried that this web of deals is not without its risks.
A lot of analysts are beginning to express concerns that OpenAI could become a single point of failure within this AI ecosystem, especially from an infrastructure standpoint. The scale of the deals is undeniable, and it's going to be a question on if they can deliver what they have promised. It's kind of this circular flow of money that some analysts think is a little unnerving and reminiscent of, the dotcom bubble, where we saw vendor financing really come to a head.
A recent report found that AI companies will need $2 trillion of annual revenue to fund the infrastructure needed to meet projected demand for AI by 2030. This is an $800 billion shortfall.
All right, that was kind of clearly explained. It's still crazy to understand, but did you follow all that? Now, when you understand what these companies are doing, you go, well, time out, wait a minute. Are they really making money? Are they really safe companies to invest in? We're putting all our AI hope in these companies. You have things like Stargate, and you have, these other deals being done, and you have OpenAI right now, according to this graph I want to show you here. OpenAI has $1.3 trillion in commitments. They're committing over $1 trillion to this, but yet they're going to lose right now. They plan to lose this year. They're saying $8.5 billion. They're losing billions of dollars, but they're making trillions of dollars in commitments. Will they be able to fulfill those commitments? And what happens if they don't? See, that's where the real danger comes in. What happens if they don't? And not only is it in the tech world, again, it goes in the medical field, it goes in the education field, it goes into retail as well. Here's a headline that Walmart partners with OpenAI to create, a new shopping experience. Well, we're going to see what that's all about. But you see it branching over into every aspect of our lives. We can't run away from this. And let me show you one more graphic here. Again, NVIDIA, Amazon, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla. Those 7 companies. Now, I want you to kind of understand those 7 companies. I'm going to come back to those in a moment. But when you take away the money that's being exchanged with those 7 companies, here's where it gets very, very real. I was going to say dangerous, but it's real as well, because again, financial experts, those who are in the know and those who monitor all this, they're saying if all this bidding and trading and exchanging of the circular dollars didn't take place with those 7 companies, well, then for the last 2 years, the stock market would have been flat. Isn't that amazing? They're saying that the stock market would not have grown at all in the last 2 years if it was not for these 7 companies. That is just mind-boggling to me. It's the Fortune 500, especially 500 companies. The S&P is the Fortune 500, so we should be getting information and watching and monitoring 500 different companies, but yet these 7 are the ones controlling the entire stock market. Why would that matter to you and I? Because, folks, if you have mutual funds, if you have a retirement plan, these are pensions. These are people's pensions. These are people's retirement accounts. All this is coming together, and you can see how risky this. What happens if this bubble bursts? As the same we experienced with the dotcom, we experienced in 2008, even with the pandemic, and it's 5 years ago. We saw what took place there. An economist at MIT, let me show you a headline here. He says that what's going on now, we're thinking it's too big to fail. We've heard that before. He's saying because we have our government involvement and because the role it plays in the stock market, well, this could never fail because the government and the stock market are too big to have anything happen. Well, I'm not sure that's absolutely true. And I'm not sure that's going to be realistic. Let's look at some numbers going back when we know what the facts were. If we go back to the last 3 financial crises in the last 3 decades, we've talked about them. So during the dot-com crisis, 25 years ago, and the real estate crash of 2008, and we're going to go back to 5 years to the pandemic. In 2008, $16 trillion was lost just in household income. What we're able to bring into our household for income, $16 trillion was lost just to the American families. 10 million families lost their homes in 2008. And with that, unemployment was at 10%. So with that crisis, unemployment was at 10%. When you go back to COVID, unemployment went to 14.7%. It was pushing 15%. So 2008, it's 10%. During the pandemic 5 years ago, it was 14.7%. What is it now? People are afraid AI is going to take their jobs. People are not hiring the way they used. When people quit jobs, they're not replacing them with real people. They're replacing them with virtual reality, with virtual assistants, with virtual helpers. That's AI. They're not real people. Right now, without a crisis, without a crash, our unemployment is 13.4%. So during the pandemic, it was at 14.7. Right now, it's at 13.4. See, the numbers are real. We can look at the numbers and say, okay, how close are we to how it was before? And we know what took place 5 years ago. Now, governments, this is the scary part. Well, it's not, I shouldn't use the word scary. This is just, it makes it real. Because I think when this happens, it becomes a global effect. And this could push us over the cliff to all the things that Revelation has talked about. We know we're building the Antichrist system, but now are we pushing the world into countries and governments collapsing so that there can be basically one world ruler? Look at this. Governments right now are investing in these tech firms. India has pledged $1.25 billion. Canada has pledged $2.4 billion into these companies and into these high-tech AI companies. China is investing $47.5 billion. France has put $109 billion commitments into this. Saudi Arabia is all in. They're putting $100 billion into these companies and into AI and in the structure that's going to come with the AI, the infrastructure. And between 2019 and 2023, the United States government, we have invested $328 billion into AI. I'll let you decide, is that a bubble? And if that's a bubble, what happens when it collapses? What happens when it bursts? India, Canada, China, France, Saudi Arabia, America, it's going to be global. Folks, this is what's coming. And my question is the church ready to help people deal with this and prepare for this? Now, AI, what they're doing with this, they are building data centers around America, but around the world as well. And one of the questions we have is, will all these data centers really be completed? Or are we going to reach a point where we have a bunch of unfinished, uncompleted data centers, AI data centers? Because AI runs on data. That's what it takes. That's where we lose our privacy. That's where they know everything about you. So, these data centers are being done. And the AI bubble, again, it contains more than one sector. It's happening in the financial sector, but it carries over into real estate. Here's a headline for you, how AI is reshaping the real estate market. It carries over into insurance. Here's another headline for you. AI insurance premiums to hit $4.8 billion within 7 years. Now, that's from an insurance magazine article. You have the medical field. Mayo Hospital, look at this graph I'm putting up for you. Mayo Hospital is saying that this is the future. AI is the future of hospitals. And China's leading the way in that. China already has AI hospitals. They opened over a year ago. How about schools? How about our education system? Here's a headline, an article from the New York Post. 6 in 10 teachers use AI to grade papers and to write lessons. 60%. Right now, 60%. So says the New York Post. But then it comes out and says, what's it doing? It's making their students stop thinking. The students aren't thinking as much. AI is doing all the work. And AI can't be trusted. It's deceptive. This is the chaos. This is the confusion. This is the deception. This is the problem. The inventor, Tim Berners, the man who invented the World Wide Web, you use HTML, he's the man behind that. You use the URL system, you use HTTP. The man who's behind all that, the man who's credited with creating all that and launching all that and being the main driver of all that, here's his quote. He came out and said, AI was supposed to do the boring work, allowing us to be more creative. Then he puts a tagline on there. He says, but that's not working out. It's not allowing us to take all the stuff we don't want to do and give it to AI so that we can become more creative. That's not the way it's working. Company headline, here's another headline. Company that sacked 700 workers with AI now regrets it. They're scrambling to rehire, people because automation is going wrong. This is according to the Economic Times. They're saying the companies that are investing, an employee quits, they don't replace the employee, they bring a virtual employee in. The companies who have done that now, who have been on that track, are saying it's not working out. I know I received a robocall the other day, and it was some kind of just sales pitch, and I knew it was the AI. So I said, is this an AI? And the response was, I am a virtual assistant. And I asked, are you human? I am a virtual assistant. And I said, goodbye. And it said, goodbye. They're calling us now. They're doing things now. And the company is saying that's not working out. MIT also released a report, and it agrees with the Economic Times. Here's the headline here. MIT reports 95% of generated AI pilots of companies, it's failing. They're saying that the programs that these companies are starting, 95% of them are failing. What does that say for the future? If we're banking all these billions and billions and billions of dollars on data centers and future and all these different sectors, but it's not working, what does that say? When I ask those kind of questions, I think, what about the people behind this? What about the people who would probably lose the most if all this went upside down? Well, I think the people who would lose the most are you and I. Because the ones behind it all, well, let me show you a picture here. The tech giants, they're ready and they're prepared for a crash. They kind of brush it off and joke about it, but look at this picture in Hawaii. This is Zuckerberg's Hawaii Doomsday Retreat, they're calling it. He says he's prepared. He's preparing for the digital future. How is he doing that? They're doing that by insulating themselves. They have a place to go to. New Zealand is known for that. The co-founder of LinkedIn, in fact, the co-founder of LinkedIn, I'll show you something that came up here in a headline. It says nearly half of his billionaire friends in Silicon Valley, he says, have some form of a secret hideaway, or they're working on one. He says that, buying a house in New Zealand, well, that's become kind of a code among the wealthy for what? For preparing for global collapse. The wealthy are saying, well, we're gonna commit all these billions of dollars, and we're gonna exchange dollars, and we're gonna take it from here and take it from Peter and give it to Paul. And if it all blows up, well, we'll just go buy a house in New Zealand. And you and I are left at the aftermath. This is what they're calling apocalyptic insurance. And it may sound cute, it may sound funny, but this is reality. Sam Altman said, he's got friends that promised him, safekeeping in New Zealand. It's disturbing, but we need to be aware of it. The church needs to be aware of it. I want to bring this as a headline to you so you're clued in to what's happening here. But it was just, someone sent me a video from a Glenn Beck show. And basically, Glenn Beck was interviewing someone who was well known in Hollywood. I understand he was a writer, producer, director. I'm not sure the role he played, but in 2015, he created a movie called War on Children, and he was advocating for children. He was speaking out against the trans community. And of course, in Hollywood, that doesn't play very well. So he was kind of blackballed in Hollywood. But then AI got involved. Again, that was 2000. It was 10 years ago at that. But then Google AI, this is the Glenn Beck show talking about this. He actually interviewed him. This was Robbie Starbuck. Robbie Starbuck was the man who was the one behind the war on children, the one speaking out against transgender and doing things with children. And Google AI then created these lies and deceptions about him and accused him of doing crimes against children. It came out, he says, Gemini would go out there and would actually create, again, the interview was there, and Robbie Starbuck says, Gemini created false court documents. It created false evidence. It created false police reports. It created false accusations from other celebrities, Glenn Beck being one of them. So Robbie Starbuck was on the show, and Glenn Beck said, I understand that I was someone that supposedly spoke out against you. And he says, yeah, this is what AI said you said about me. And Glenn said, I never said that. Now, could you imagine you and I just reading about this Hollywood producer, director, whatever it was behind the scene, and seeing court documents and evidence and police reports about these vile crimes that he's committing against children? What would you and I think? And he's saying all this is a fake AI personal attack. He's actually suing them, and they're going to go to court in Delaware. And that's the only part of the clip that I got to see. So I may follow up on this story later on, but it just shows you how real this deception is and what AI can do. Google AI went out and created all these documents, police reports, court documents. You think, how do you do that? I don't know about if you remember a few weeks ago, but the internet kind of got shut down for about 24 hours. AWS, which is Amazon, they went offline. Now, they control about 39% of the internet. AWS, Amazon, controls about 39% of the internet. So you think, well, 60% should have still been working. But no, even though they only control 39% of the internet, the rest of the internet, we found out, really, really depends on AWS. I know at the university, we couldn't do any grading. We couldn't do things. I know banks were down. The airlines were affected by it somewhat. All sectors of our culture, when the computers went down, people couldn't work. It showed you how dependent we are, which we know how dependent we are on electronics and computers. And now we're that dependent upon AI. So anyhow, that's all that's happening. And I want you to be aware of that. So here's the question. What do we do about that? Every time I do these shows, I deeply appreciate you spending the time and with me, this half hour, this 40 minutes with me. That's why I want to resource you every time I have a show. I ask you to go to the Interpreting Times YouTube page. I ask you to subscribe there and to like things so that the algorithm will take it and think things are going well and more people will be exposed to it. So thank you for doing that, because people have responded to that. So I want to resource you. So I put together a handout, which I've given to my church as well. And I want to put my free gift to you this week is to give you this handout, and it's how the church should prepare for the age of AI. Because we need to be on the forefront of this, and we need to be proactive. We can't be passive about this, because folks, it's here. It's affecting our lives. And I think if I look at the people, the experts who know, if the bubble doesn't break, it's going to get worse. I don't know how these billions and billions and billions of dollars and commitments are going to be fulfilled when the productivity is not there and the way it's going over into the other sectors. So to get this, I want to share something with you in a moment. To get this, just click the link in the description. If you click the link in the description here, we will get that to you electronically. And then, print this out, copy it, and give it to as many people as you possibly can, because the church needs to be aware of this. This document say, first thing we need to do is we need to guard against deception, because AI can create deception. As you heard with this story with Robbie Starbucks. I mean, we can get synthetic messages in the church. We can get false doctrine. And people who don't know, people who are young in the church, or people who are curious about what's happening, or people who are seeking out God, they're not going to know if it's true or not. So we need to be aware of that. We need to guard ourselves against deception. We need to strengthen how well we know the Bible. Folks, George Barna's done some great research on this. For the last 6 years, he does a yearly review on this. And our Bible literacy, it's down here. People are just, A, they're not reading the Bible, and B, they're not understanding it. Now, people watching this, you guys may be the cream of the crop, and you may be the exception. People who follow Bible prophecy, they tend to be more educated, but you guys are unique. So the church needs to help strengthen Bible knowledge, because AI is going to generate theological confusion. People aren't going to know what's happening with that. So we need to we need to return to strong Bible teaching and make sure we have a Christian worldview, that people understand what that is. Another thing, the third thing is we need to be prepared for AI moral challenges, because our morals are going to be challenged. Our kids' morals are going to be challenged. Our grandkids' morals are going to be challenged. We need to offer ministries that will help with that from a biblical perspective. We need to be able to bring accountability to people. That's going to bring accountability with both grace and truth. But that needs to be made available to people. And we need to build real community, because AI is designed to isolate people. It's designed to isolate people, to put you in a corner, to put you on your computer, and you to have relationships with AI, to trust on AI, to put everything that you have into AI. We can stay at home and not leave our house, and we can turn things on in our house. We can shop. We can get food delivered to us. We don't need human contact. Well, in the church, we do. We need community as people. And one of the things the church can do is to build real community, because the church does offer authentic fellowship and prayer and worship, and AI cannot replace that. Another thing is we need to equip parents and families. Parents and families need to be equipped with this, because we need to teach parents boundaries. What can come into the house and what cannot come into the house, and how many hours can we have? What programs can we watch, and what can we do? Because the kids are going to love it. I mean, you've seen that. I've done shows on the Meta glasses. I've done shows on technology and how dangerous it can be. It seems fun. It seems great, to be able to make emojis and to do this and to have a digital twin. All these things are going to be so commonplace, but we need to equip parents and families because they need to set proper boundaries, biblical boundaries. We need to prepare for economic changes. AI is not only going to disrupt careers, but it's going to change people's jobs and how they go about that. So the church needs to be ready for that. We need to focus really on the gospel and the blessed hope, the soon return of Christ. We need to be putting that in the forefront. AI, I don't care what they do. I don't care how many data centers they build. They cannot replace salvation. They cannot replace truth. They cannot replace the Holy Spirit. We need to stay centered and focused on the gospel. And the last thing I'm going to say is, AI may reshape society, but it cannot reshape the sovereignty of God. Luke chapter 21, verse 2, look up, for your redemption draws near. Anyhow, I would love to get this into your hands. If you, again, would just click the link in the description, we will get that out to you immediately. Print it off, make copies, send it to people so that the church will know how to prepare for this age that we live in called artificial intelligence. Because, folks, it's not going away, and it's not going to go back. What we have now, we're crossing the point. Well, I think we're past the point of no return as far as AI. People aren't going to give up what they have. The whole thing may collapse and explode, but people are still going to want AI. So the church, the believers, the Christians, the Jesus freaks, we all need to be prepared for that. So I would love to get that to you. Anyhow, I'm out of time for today. Thank you for watching this episode of The Final Hour. Again, go to interpretingthetimes.com. We have plenty of material on that. We do weekly articles and weekly videos in addition to what you have here. And then go to our YouTube station as well, our YouTube channel, Interpreting the Times YouTube, and you can like and subscribe so that we can continue to get the word of Christ out. God bless you.